The training station floated at the edge of human-controlled space, a massive ring of metal and glass surrounded by silent stars. To the Avera Empire, it was nothing special. To humans, it was proof they had finally been allowed into a joint military program with one of the galaxy's oldest powers. Lureth stood inside the observation hall, her posture straight and proud. Her tall, silver-blue form drew attention wherever she went. Smooth skin marked with faint glowing lines showed her noble blood. Her eyes, sharp and bright, scanned the humans below with open judgment. They were ugly creatures to her, too short, too uneven. Their movements looked stiff, their bodies wrapped in thick fabric and armor like they were afraid of the air itself. Lureth felt a curl of amusement rise inside her chest. "So these are humans," she said aloud, her voice calm but cold. "The species that insists it deserves equal standing." Beside her, Commander Velrix of the Avirai Guard gave a thin smile. "They are persistent. That is their strongest trait." Lureth watched as human soldiers assembled on the training floor. Some laughed. Some checked their weapons. Others sat quietly, lost in thought. None of them looked impressive. "They lack grace," she said. "Their movements waste energy. Their bodies are inefficient." Commander Velrix nodded. "Their biology is inferior, but their numbers are high. The Council believes cooperation is useful." Lureth did not respond. She was here to observe, not to argue politics. Still, she felt insulted that an Avirai noble like herself had to share space with beings so clearly beneath her people. The training exercise was meant to be simple, a controlled environment, simulated combat, stress testing both species under identical conditions. Lureth had no doubt about the outcome. When the signal sounded, the participants entered the training zone. Artificial terrain shifted and locked into place, rocky ground, low gravity pockets, harsh wind simulations. Humans adjusted quickly, sealing helmets and activating systems. Lureth stepped forward without armor. She did not need it. Her species possessed dense muscle fibers, reinforced bone structure, and a nervous system designed to minimize pain response. The Avirai did not glorify suffering like humans seemed to do in their stories. Pain was a weakness, and evolution had reduced it. As the exercise began, Lureth moved with speed and elegance. She leapt over obstacles, struck targets with perfect accuracy, and disabled training drones with ease. Her movements were efficient, flawless. She glanced toward the humans, expecting to see exhaustion. Instead, she saw resistance. Human soldiers struggled, yes, but they did not stop. One slipped and injured his leg, yet continued moving, jaw clenched. Another took a hit from a drone, staggered, then adjusted his tactics and pressed forward. Lureth frowned. They should have been slowed more than this. Then the system warning sounded. A deep, unnatural vibration echoed through the training zone. Lights flickered. The artificial wind surged violently. "What is that?" Lureth demanded. Commander Velrix's voice crackled over the comms. "System error. Power instability detected. All participants prepare for emergency shutdown." Before the shutdown could complete, the ground beneath Lureth shifted violently. A section of simulated terrain collapsed, turning into a deep ravine as gravity controls failed. Lureth tried to leap back. She was fast, but not fast enough. The ground gave way beneath her feet. She fell. The impact was brutal. Her body struck the rocks below, and for the first time in her life, pain exploded through her nervous system without restraint. Something inside her leg cracked sharply. Her breath vanished from her lungs. Lureth screamed. The sound shocked even her. She had never screamed before. Pain was not supposed to feel like this. It was supposed to be distant, muted, manageable. Instead, it flooded her senses like fire. Her vision blurred. Her body trembled against her will. She tried to stand. Her leg refused to move. Another wave of pain hit her, stronger than the first. Her scream echoed through the ravine, raw and uncontrolled. Above, human voices shouted. "Someone's down!" Ravine breach, get a line. Lureth barely heard them. Her world had narrowed to agony and fear. Fear was worse. Avarai were taught control from birth. Fear was weakness, yet her hands shook. She felt exposed, helpless. Moments later, a human face appeared at the edge of her blurred vision. A helmeted figure descended carefully using a cable. "Hey," the human said, voice steady. "Don't move, we've got you." Lureth tried to speak. Only a broken sound came out. The human reached her and secured the line around her body with practiced speed. He glanced at her leg, eyes narrowing. "That's bad," he said quietly, "but you'll be okay." How are you calm?" Lureth managed to whisper. The human looked at her, surprised. "Because panicking won't help." Another tremor shook the ravine. Rocks fell nearby. The human tightened his grip. "Can you handle the pain for a minute?" Lureth stared at him, disbelief cutting through her suffering. Handle the pain? She was drowning in it. "I cannot," she admitted. The human nodded once. "That's all right, I can." He lifted her carefully, ignoring the strain on his own body. Lureth felt every movement like a blade, and another scream escaped her despite her shame. The human did not flinch. Above them, chaos spread. The training system had failed completely, turning simulations into real danger. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Defensive drones activated without control. Human soldiers regrouped, forming teams, shouting clear commands. Lureth watched through tears of pain as injured humans continued to fight, dragging each other to safety. Blood marked some of their armor. Their breathing was heavy, yet none of them screamed the way she had. Why could they endure this? As she was lifted from the ravine, Lureth's consciousness flickered. Pain clawed at her relentlessly. Her superiority, something she had never questioned, felt hollow. She had believed humans were weak because they felt pain. Now she understood something terrifying. They felt pain too. They just did not let it stop them. When Lureth finally lost consciousness, her last thought was not pride or anger. It was fear. Fear that everything she believed about strength was wrong. Lureth woke to the sound of alarms and human voices speaking quickly but clearly. The pain returned before her vision did. It pressed against her mind like a heavy weight, sharp and constant. Her body felt wrong, uneven, as if it no longer fully belonged to her. She tried to move. A burning wave shot through her leg, forcing a cry from her throat. She clenched her teeth, ashamed. Avarai were trained from childhood not to show weakness. Pain was something to be controlled, pushed aside, but this pain did not obey. "You're awake," a voice said close by, calm, human. Lureth turned her head slowly. She lay on a metal stretcher inside a damaged section of the training station. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the room. Around her, humans moved with purpose. Some were injured, some were bleeding. None of them were panicking. The same human who had pulled her from the ravine stood beside her. His helmet was off now. His face was lined with exhaustion, dirt, and dried blood, none of it his own. "You shouldn't move," he said. "Your leg's fractured, maybe worse." Lureth swallowed. "Why are you still here?" The human blinked. "Because the station isn't stable yet. We're getting everyone out." She stared at him. "Even me." "Especially you," he replied without hesitation. That answer disturbed her more than the pain. The Avarai doctrine was clear. Priority was given based on rank and usefulness. Humans, however, moved like a single unit. No hesitation. No visible calculation of worth. A violent tremor shook the station. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far off, metal screamed as systems failed. "Command says evacuation routes are compromised," another human shouted. "Drones are active and hostile." The human beside Lureth, his name tag read Hale, grabbed his rifle. "Then we move manually." Lureth tried to sit up again. Pain flared instantly. Hale pressed a firm hand against her shoulder. "Easy, you're not walking." "I can still fight," she said, though her voice shook. He met her eyes. "No, you can't, and that's okay." That word again, okay. It made no sense. Two humans lifted the stretcher. Lureth felt the pain spike with every step they took, but she forced herself not to scream. She bit into the inside of her mouth, tasting blood. She watched them closely. Their breathing was heavy. One limped badly, the other had a burned arm wrapped in cloth, yet they carried her without complaint. "Why do you continue?" she asked quietly. "Your injuries are severe." The limping human gave a short laugh. "Because stopping hurts more." She did not understand. As they moved through the broken corridors, Lureth saw more of the human's behavior. One soldier collapsed from exhaustion. Two others immediately dragged him up. Another took shrapnel to the shoulder and tied it off with shaking hands, then kept moving. Pain was everywhere, and still they advanced. Drones appeared ahead, their targeting systems glowing red. Humans took cover instantly. "Stay low," Hale ordered. Energy fire tore through the hallway. Explosions rattled the walls. A human shielded Lureth's body with his own as fragments flew past. She felt something hit him hard. He grunted but did not fall. "Why?" she whispered, stunned. "I insulted your kind." Hale fired back at the drones, his movements sharp and controlled. "Yeah, you did." Another explosion. A drone collapsed. "Then why protect me?" she pressed. He glanced back briefly. "Because leaving you would be wrong." Wrong. That word echoed in her mind. The Avari believed in efficiency, not morality. Survival of the strongest. Pain avoidance. Emotional distance. Humans seemed to believe something else entirely. They pushed forward, clearing a path through debris and fire. When the drones finally fell silent, the humans paused, not to rest but to check each other. "Status. Still breathing. That's good enough." Lureth's vision blurred again, but this time it was not just pain. Confusion weighed heavily on her thoughts. She remembered the words she had spoken before the exercise. Inferior, weak, inefficient. None of it fit what she was seeing now. As they reached a sealed blast door, Hale slammed his hand against the control panel. It sparked uselessly. "No power," he muttered. Behind them, another tremor shook the station. Structural failure warnings screamed through the corridor. "We don't have time," someone shouted. Hale turned to the others. "Manual override, it'll hurt." One human nodded and stepped forward. "I'll do it." Lureth watched as the human forced his arm into the exposed mechanism. Electricity surged violently through his body. His muscles locked. A scream tore from his throat, raw and terrible. She flinched. He held on. Seconds stretched painfully long. Smoke rose from his arm. His scream turned into a broken gasp. Then the door opened. He collapsed immediately, shaking. Humans rushed to his side. "Was it worth it?" Lureth asked weakly, horror filling her voice. The injured human managed a crooked smile. "Doors open, so yeah." Something inside Lureth cracked. That pain, she could feel it just by watching. And yet he had chosen it. Not because he was forced. Not because he was superior. Because it needed to be done. They moved again, faster now. The evacuation bay came into view. Human ships docked unevenly, ready to pull away at any second. As they loaded the wounded, Lureth noticed something that made her chest tighten. Humans boarded last. They sent the injured first. The weak. The unconscious, including her. Hale secured her stretcher inside the transport. "You're safe now." She grabbed his wrist suddenly, surprising both of them. Her grip was weak, trembling. "Your people feel pain like this all the time?" she asked. Hale considered the question. "Different kinds, physical, mental, emotional. And yet you keep going," he shrugged slightly. "What choice do we have?" The ship shook as it detached. The damaged station drifted away, dark and broken. Lureth lay staring at the ceiling, her thoughts racing despite the exhaustion. The Avari believed pain was failure. Humans treated pain like a companion, an enemy they knew well. As the transport jumped into hyperspace, Lureth closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she did not think of herself as superior. She thought of herself as unprepared. And the idea terrified her more than the pain ever could. The transport ship did not reach safety. Midway through hyperspace, alarms screamed again, louder than before. The ship shook violently, throwing loose equipment across the medical bay. Lureth woke with a sharp cry as pain surged through her leg once more. "What's happening?" she demanded, panic breaking through her calm. Hale was already strapped into a seat nearby, his jaw tight. "The station damage wasn't just structural. Something followed us." The lights flickered. The ship dropped out of hyperspace without warning. Stars snapped back into view, but they were wrong, too close, too many. "Unknown gravity well detected," a pilot shouted. "We're being pulled in." Below them, a dark planet filled the viewports. Its surface was rough, broken by deep canyons and endless storm clouds. No settlements, no signals, no known life. The ship screamed as it entered the atmosphere. Lureth gripped the sides of the stretcher as the pain and fear mixed into something overwhelming. Avera ships were designed to avoid damage entirely. This human vessel endured it instead, panels bending, hull burning, systems failing one by one. "Brace!" Hale shouted. The impact came like the fist of a god. Metal tore. Fire flashed. The ship slammed into the ground and skidded across rock and dirt until it finally stopped in silence broken only by crackling flames. For several long seconds, no one moved. Then humans began to stir. "Sound off. I'm alive." Legs broken, still breathing. Med bay secure. Lureth lay frozen, stunned by the violence of it. Her body screamed in protest, but she forced herself to stay conscious. Smoke filled the cabin. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Hale reached her quickly, cutting her restraints. "You with me?" She nodded, though her vision swam. "We crashed." "Yeah," he said. "Welcome to Plan B." Outside, the planet howled. Wind tore across the surface, carrying dust sharp enough to scrape exposed skin. Sensors came back online slowly. The readings were bad, very bad. Gravity was heavier than standard. The atmosphere was barely breathable, and beneath the surface, movement registered everywhere. "This planet is alive," one human muttered. They evacuated the wreck in minutes, forming a defensive circle instinctively. Even injured, they moved with purpose. Lureth was carried again, but this time she protested. "I must walk," she said. Hale hesitated. "You really shouldn't." "I will try," she insisted. With help, she stood. Pain flared like lightning, but she did not scream. Her body shook, yet she stayed upright. The humans noticed. One of them gave a small nod. They found shelter inside a natural rock formation nearby. The wind could not reach them there. Fires were started. Wounds were treated with limited supplies. Silence settled in. Lureth listened to the planet. It felt hostile, hungry. "This world is not on any chart," she said quietly. "It is a death zone." "Most places are," Hale replied. "You just learn how to survive them." Hours passed. Then the ground moved. At first it was a vibration. Then shadows shifted at the cave entrance. Something massive crawled into view, 6 limbs, armored hide, eyes that reflected the firelight like cold mirrors. Another followed. Then another, creatures, not machines, not drones, hunters. Humans reacted instantly. Weapons were raised, positions were taken, no shouting, no panic. Lureth felt fear tighten her chest. Her species avoided predators. This planet seemed built by them. The first creature charged. Gunfire roared through the cave entrance. The creature screamed, not in pain but in rage. It slammed into the human line with crushing force. A human was thrown hard against the wall. Bones cracked. Still, the line held. Another creature lunged toward Lureth. She froze. Before she could react, Hale stepped in front of her. The creature's claw tore into his side, ripping through armor and flesh. Blood spilled freely. Lureth screamed his name. Hale staggered, but he did not fall. With a roar of effort, he drove his weapon into the creature's exposed joint and fired repeatedly. The beast collapsed at his feet. He collapsed moments later. "No!" Lureth crawled to him, pain forgotten. His breathing was shallow. Blood soaked into the dirt beneath him. Medics rushed in, hands shaking as they worked. "He's losing too much blood," one said. "We don't have enough supplies." Lureth stared at Hale's pale face. He had protected her again. chosen pain again. Her chest burned not with injury but something else. Resolve. My blood, she said suddenly. The humans looked at her. What? HFY blood accelerates cellular repair, she said. It is compatible. Cross-species transfusion is risky, a medic warned. She met his eyes. So is death. There was no hesitation. They prepared the transfer. As the process began, Lureth felt weakness spread through her body. Dizziness followed. Pain deepened, but she did not scream. She watched Hale's breathing slowly steady. Color returned to his face. The humans stared in quiet shock. You saved him, someone whispered. Lureth shook her head. He saved me first. Outside, the creatures retreated into the storm, dragging their dead with them. The cave fell silent again. Lureth lay back against the rock, exhausted beyond anything she had known. Her body hurt. Her mind reeled. This planet did not care about superiority. It tested only one thing: endurance, and humans were built for it. As darkness settled, Lureth understood the truth fully now. Pain was not a flaw, pain was a teacher. And humans had learned its lessons better than any species in the galaxy. The storm outside had not stopped. Lightning cut across the sky, illuminating the jagged landscape. Rain mixed with ash and dirt to form a thick, heavy mud that pulled at each step the humans took. Yet they moved forward, slowly, methodically, refusing to pause even for exhaustion or fear. Lureth followed as best as she could, carried at times, dragged at others. Her leg was still badly injured, her body weak from the transfusion she had given Hale. She tried to keep up, but the pain screamed louder with each step. Every nerve in her body felt alive, trembling, screaming. Yet she did not scream. She clenched her jaw and forced herself to breathe. Humans never seemed to stop. She watched them carefully. One carried a heavy load of supplies while hopping on one leg. Another pulled a fallen comrade up a slick slope. And yet another smashed a branch to use as a lever to remove a boulder blocking the path. Lureth's pride quivered. She had believed in her species' superiority, in strength that no human could match. Now she understood that human strength was different, not in their muscles, not in their bodies, but in their minds. Pain did not break them. It sharpened them. Hale walked beside her when she could manage a few steps on her own. He did not speak much. He simply observed, guiding her and checking on the other wounded. A sudden roar echoed from above. Lureth froze. Her heart raced. Another creature appeared, even larger than the ones before. Its armor-like skin glinted in the storm. Its claws were tipped with stone-like growths, and its eyes shone with cold, predatory intelligence. The humans froze for a brief moment, but only a moment. Hale barked orders and they took positions as if trained for this moment all their lives. Lureth noticed how they moved together, communicating silently, anticipating each other's actions. Their fear was real, but it did not paralyze them. The creature lunged, faster than it had any right to be. One human stepped in its path, taking a blow to the shoulder that sent him sprawling. Another soldier rolled, striking the creature's limb with a plasma blade. Lureth could hardly keep up with the action, her body trembling at the intensity. Hale grabbed her arm. "Stay low. Watch." She obeyed, pressed against a rock wall, her eyes wide as the humans fought. They were smaller, weaker, slower, but they adapted instantly. They dodged, countered, and attacked in perfect sequence. Every human seemed to know exactly what to do, even when injured. One soldier was caught by the creature and dragged toward the cliff's edge. Another jumped, grabbed him, and yanked him back with a strength that should have been impossible. Lureth's chest tightened. Humans risked themselves without hesitation. Hale's face appeared beside hers. "You see, that's what we do. We don't stop, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." She swallowed hard, feeling her own weakness. Her pride, once as solid as her bones, was crumbling. Her species had been taught to avoid pain, to maintain superiority by strength and skill. Humans had survived worse, endured more, and turned it into a weapon. The battle ended as abruptly as it began. The creature retreated into the storm, wounded but not dead. The humans gathered quickly, tending to their injured. Lureth watched Hale move toward a young soldier, checking his pulse and bandaging a deep cut. They are incredible," she whispered, barely able to form the words. "They are stubborn," Hale said simply. "Pain is nothing if you know what you're fighting for." Lureth could not speak. She had always believed strength was about superiority. Now she understood it was about endurance, about refusing to give up when everything is against you. Night fell, and the storm raged harder. The humans built temporary shelters from rocks and debris. Lureth helped where she could, though each motion sent spikes of pain through her body. She marveled at their efficiency, at the way they worked together as a unit. One human lit a small fire. Another cleaned wounds. Hale oversaw everything but never ordered, only guided. The night was long. Lureth tried to rest, but sleep was impossible. She watched the humans around her, injured, exhausted, but still planning for tomorrow. Their resilience was breathtaking. Pain had not destroyed them, it had sharpened them. When dawn came, the storm had lessened slightly, though the mud and debris remained treacherous. Hale stood beside her. "We move at first light," he said. Lureth tried to stand. Her body protested violently. Every nerve was on fire. She fell back into his arms. "Stop," he said firmly. "Pain isn't weakness. Pushing too far is. Let us carry you until you're ready." She struggled to argue but found no strength. Instead, she felt a strange sense of humility. Her pride had always been her armor. Now she understood it was useless. Humans did not need armor. They needed endurance, courage, and unity. The journey continued. The humans led her through the treacherous terrain. Every step was a battle against gravity, mud, and their own exhaustion. Lureth watched as one soldier collapsed into the mud. Another grabbed him and pulled him forward, speaking words that she could not hear over the storm, but that somehow reassured him. No hesitation, no complaints, only action. She realized that their greatest strength was not physical, it was mental. Humans had learned to live with pain, to use it, to turn it into motivation. HFY might be stronger in body, faster in reflex, but humans never quit. At midday, they reached a cliff edge. The landscape stretched endlessly below, jagged mountains, deep canyons, and a forest that looked alive, as if the trees themselves were moving. Lureth's stomach turned. Her species had never been tested like this. Humans had no reason to fear it. They looked at it as a challenge. Hale knelt beside her. "We rest here, keep your strength. There's more ahead." She nodded, though she did not trust her own body. She had never felt pain like this, never feared failure like this, never been forced to rely on anyone, especially humans. Hours later, night came again. The stars were obscured by clouds, but faint lights flickered from distant points. Lureth realized they were not alone. Movement registered in the shadows below. Not creatures like before, smaller, faster, more intelligent, predators clearly, and many of them. The humans prepared. Weapons were loaded, traps set, positions taken. Not a word of panic, not a single hesitation. Lureth shivered. Her species relied on speed and technology. Humans relied on willpower and instinct. The first creature leapt. It was fast, faster than she expected. A human met it head-on, slamming a weapon into its chest. It screamed, but the human pushed back, holding the creature in place long enough for another to strike. Lureth flinched at the impact. Blood sprayed. Pain spread through her body, and she felt her chest tighten with fear. Then she realized something remarkable. The humans were not afraid, they were focused, calm, determined. She looked at Hale. His eyes were sharp, his face set. His movements precise. He had been injured before, yet he stood, unwavering. She realized something that made her chest ache more than the pain ever could. These humans were stronger than HFY in ways she had never considered, not in muscle or reflex, but in spirit. In endurance, in courage. She tried to move closer to help. Her leg throbbed, her body screamed. Every movement was agony, yet she did not scream. She clenched her teeth and forced herself forward step by painful step. The humans noticed. One of them offered her a hand. Another nodded approval, not because she was superior but because she was trying, because she refused to quit even in the face of pain. By dawn, the creatures had retreated. The humans were exhausted, injured, and dirty, yet they had survived. Lureth had survived. And for the first time, she understood the truth. Strength was not about being invincible. Strength was about enduring. Strength was about refusing to surrender when everything in the universe was against you. Hale looked at her as she collapsed against a rock, finally allowing herself a moment of rest. "Pain isn't weakness," he said softly. "It's what tells you you're alive, and what you do with it, that's what makes you strong." Lureth closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling with effort. She felt pain like never before, but she also felt respect, deep, surprising, and humbling, for the humans who had survived it with her. And she knew something that would stay with her forever. The galaxy might see humans as weak, others might laugh at their flesh and bones, but she had seen their strength. She had felt it, and no one, no species, could ever take that away. The storm had passed, leaving the planet bathed in a cold, gray light. Mud and debris covered the jagged terrain, and distant mountains rose like broken teeth against the sky. Lureth stood with Hale and the remaining humans at the edge of a wide plateau, looking down into a deep canyon where shadows moved with silent purpose. The creatures they had fought before were gone for now, but the planet still hummed with danger. She had walked further today than she ever thought possible. Pain still gripped her leg and her body ached with exhaustion, yet she had not screamed. She had not faltered. Every step, every strained breath, every moment of agony had been endured. She realized, as she stumbled slightly and Hale caught her arm, that she had begun to understand what humans were truly capable of. Hale's eyes scanned the horizon. "We need to find a safe place to camp and regroup. The planet isn't done with us yet." Lureth nodded, though her body begged for rest. She wanted to collapse and surrender to weakness, but she forced herself to stand straighter. She had begun to feel something she had never felt before, determination born from endurance. The humans moved as one unit. Despite injuries and fatigue, they covered the rear, the flanks, and the front. Each took turns watching, resting, and carrying supplies. Lureth observed them closely. They were not the fastest, not the strongest by appearance. Their weapons were crude compared to HFY technology, and yet they moved with confidence that no machine could teach. As they navigated the canyon, Lureth tripped over a root and fell. Pain exploded in her leg, sharper than anything she had felt before. She collapsed against a rock, her face pale and glistening with sweat. Hale appeared instantly at her side, his hand firm on her shoulder. "You're all right," he said. "I've got you." We moved together. She looked at him, her eyes wide. "You risk yourself every time." He shook his head. "Not risk, responsibility. We survive as a group or we die alone." She stared at him, astonished. Responsibility, survival. Humanity carried both with a grace that defied logic. Her species prized superiority, efficiency, control. But humans had endurance and heart. Hours passed as they climbed higher, the terrain growing steeper, more treacherous. Lureth's body screamed with every step, yet she kept moving. Hale offered support, but she insisted on trying herself, forcing each muscle to obey. Humans around them encouraged, guided, and carried those who faltered. Lureth marveled at the unspoken bond they shared. As night fell, they found shelter inside a cave at the top of the plateau. The wind had lessened, but the cold was biting. Fires were lit. Humans tended their wounds, cleaned weapons, and checked equipment. Lureth sat on a rock, exhausted, feeling useless. "You've done well today," Hale said softly, sitting beside her. "You're stronger than you think." She began, then paused. "I do not understand. My species believes strength comes from perfection. Pain is weakness. Humans, you endure so much. You suffer and yet you continue." Hale smiled faintly. Pain is not weakness, it's proof we're alive, and the choice to continue despite it, that's strength. She looked at him, trying to memorize the truth. It was not enough to hear it. She had to see it, feel it, and endure it. The next morning the group moved again. Lureth walked with Hale's support, every step a reminder of her vulnerability. Yet each step also reminded her of human endurance. Every time she faltered, she noticed how they did not complain. They only adapted, helping one another forward. The creatures that lurked in the shadows had not returned, but the planet remained unpredictable. Every rock, every gust of wind, every sudden drop in temperature was a threat. A roar echoed from below the canyon and a group of smaller predators emerged. Faster and cleverer than the previous ones, they darted toward the humans with remarkable coordination. Lureth froze, instinct urging her to flee. Hale grasped her arm. "Stay with us," he said. The humans spread out, forming a defensive line. The creatures attacked swiftly, but the humans countered with precision. One soldier dived to shield a comrade, taking a wound in the process. Another used a simple lever to topple a rock, crushing several predators at once. Lureth felt fear flare in her chest, but she also felt awe. She had been trained to fight, trained to avoid pain, trained to dominate weaker beings. But humans survived without invincibility. They did not need perfection. They relied on their will, their courage, and each other. A predator leapt toward her and she froze. Reflexively, Hale shoved her to the side and blocked it with his body. The claw struck him and blood ran freely down his arm. He grunted but remained upright. Lureth, still weak, watched as another human delivered the final strike, neutralizing the threat. "You see," Hale said, breathing heavily, "pain is a challenge, not a limit. You don't stop because it hurts. You stop when the danger ends." Lureth nodded slowly, understanding settling deeper than before. Her superiority, her pride, her species' beliefs, all of it seemed hollow now. Humans were not stronger in body or biology, but in spirit, in endurance, in heart. They moved on. The plateau led to a ridge that overlooked a valley filled with strange flora. Light from a distant sun filtered through clouds, casting silver hues on the jagged landscape. The humans paused for a moment to drink water and rest, though no one truly rested. Every second counted on this world. Hale crouched beside Lureth. "You've done well today, more than well. You kept moving when your body wanted to give up. That is strength." She could not answer immediately. The pain was still there, deep in her legs, spreading into her core. But she felt a strange warmth, a new understanding. Humans did not have perfect bodies. They did not have flawless systems, but they endured, they adapted, they survived, and they did so with courage. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the valley, the group prepared to descend. The path was steep, dangerous, but humans led the way with calm determination. Lureth followed as best she could, leaning on Hale when necessary, taking one painful step at a time. A sudden rumble shook the ridge. Rocks fell and dust filled the air. Creatures attacked again, larger this time, with armored hides and long claws. Humans did not flinch. They met the attack with coordinated strikes, shields raised, weapons firing with precision. One soldier, despite a broken arm, grabbed a heavy branch and forced it against a creature's head, stunning it long enough for another to strike. Another dragged a wounded comrade from the attack, ignoring the blood that coated both of them. Lureth's chest ached at the sight. These humans had endured injuries and fatigue, yet they continued without hesitation. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But she forced herself to move forward, taking each step with effort. Pain flared, but she did not scream. She had learned that screaming did not save her. Endurance did. Courage did. Humans did. By the time they reached a safer plateau, night had fallen completely. Stars shone faintly above, though clouds still covered most of the sky. Lureth collapsed against a rock, exhausted, mud-covered, bruised, and bleeding. Hale knelt beside her, checking her injuries. "You survived today," he said softly. Not because you're invincible, not because you're perfect, because you didn't give up. She looked at him, her eyes wide with newfound understanding. Humans, you are stronger than I imagined. Hale smiled faintly. Stronger in ways that matter most. Endurance, courage, will. Pain doesn't stop us, it teaches us. It defines us. The realization struck Lureth fully. She had believed her species superior because they avoided weakness, avoided pain. Humans were not superior in the same way, but they were stronger than any Avera could be. They faced pain, embraced it, endured it, and used it to become unstoppable. Over the next few days, they navigated the planet carefully, avoiding creatures when possible, fighting when necessary. Lureth continued to struggle with her injuries, but she refused to surrender. Every time she fell, a human would help her up. Every time she wanted to give up, she remembered Hale's words, "Pain is proof you're alive, and enduring it is strength." By the end of the journey, the humans had found a safer landing area. A rescue ship from human space had arrived to extract them. Lureth looked back at the harsh, uncharted planet, the one that had tested every limit of their bodies and minds. She realized that this planet had not defeated them. Humans had triumphed, not through technology or speed, but through willpower, courage, and endurance. As the rescue ship lifted off, Lureth glanced at Hale. "Your species, I misjudged you." He shrugged, a faint smile on his lips. "Many do, but experience teaches better than words. You've seen it now." Lureth felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of humility, respect, and awe. She had screamed in pain before, she had doubted herself, and she had feared weakness. But she had endured. She had learned. She had seen the truth of humanity. When the rescue ship reached orbit, Lureth looked at the stars and felt something she had never felt before. Admiration for a species she had once dismissed as weak. Humans were fragile in form, yes, but unbreakable in spirit. They could be injured, beaten, and exhausted, but they would never give up. They endured, survived, and triumphed where others would have failed. For the first time in her life, Lureth understood the meaning of strength. Not perfection, not avoidance of pain, not superiority in form. True strength was endurance. True strength was courage in the face of suffering. True strength was refusing to stop when everything told you to. And humans embodied that strength like no species she had ever known. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying them away from the hostile planet, Lureth leaned back in her seat. Pain still lingered, but it no longer dominated her thoughts. She had survived. She had learned. And she had seen what true strength meant. She would never look at humanity or herself the same way again.